This is the last week before the Christmas shutdown, and we are only going to be working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and we are up against it. We're working in the same property that we were working in last week, but we came up against some complications with the doors, so we couldn't get as much done as we wanted. So we've got all the work from last week and all the work from this week. And the good thing is we do have a special guest who's been on the page before, who's coming to give us a hand, which we're ecstatic about, because I don't think we would have get it done if we never had help. But while I make my journey to work, I want you to watch the clips from last week and enjoy it. Alright, Paul?
Hey, Paul! Well then.
So we've done the plywood, repaired the floorboards, and boxed in the bath. Now while Andy's getting his tools set up, I'm going to kind of talk you through the problem that we ran into last week. So basically, all the door frames in this house is about a 1930s house, so they're all imperial size widths, but they've got metric size heights, which is really strange, so it's really hard to buy. So basically we can get sizes for the 2-bedroom doors, which is just behind you guys, but the bathroom door and the last bedroom door, we have got an issue. We can get the correct widths, but we can't get the correct heights. So the customer had to make a decision, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the facings off, we're going to bring the door frame down by adding additional timber, and then we can hang the doors. So the plan for today is adapt the door frames, hang the doors, and there's a windowsill down the stairs, and also tomorrow we're going to be starting the understairs storage. And I'm going to jump to the merchant. When I come back, Andy would have took the facings off this door and the door over there and starting hanging this door, and then it means we can get all 4 doors hung today, and happy as Larry, we're back up to speed. We'll drop it well, alright? Right, 1, 2, 3. Take 6 and see how we go. There's nothing to brush. You kidding on you? Getting yourself in? Just the name here. Maybe. Nah, we'll get it. Name maybe's about it. Getting it back out. Oh! Oh!
There's that one that come down already.
That's us. Right, while I was away at the merchants, Andy has very kindly removed all the facings, the checks for the doors, and he started putting the frames back together. So I'm going to continue with that and repairing all the frames and lowering the headers while Andy does the first door in the back room. And then what we're going to do is we'll do the last 3 doors together, and we're going to show you guys exactly how we have done that. 7, 10, 7. 165. So this isn't ideal, but it is what it is, and it's what we've had to do. So we've built down 40mm basically, so that instead of having an opening height of 2040, we've came down to 1980. So sorry, 60mm we've came down. So basically what we'll do is we'll hang the door first, and then we'll replace the door checks, or door stops here, and then we'll put the facings back on there. This is getting tiled, so really you'd have had plasterboard in there just to bring that down a wee bit. I might replace this bit of timber, this bit of 2-inch with plasterboard, and then it's only the CLS that will get the tile over it and the tile trim over it. But sometimes like it just is what it is. You need to adapt and overcome in these old houses. Not everything's like new construction, and you just need to do the best job for the customer for the best outcome. It's update so far. We've got 1 door fitted, 2 doors fitted, 3 doors fitted, and behind me Andy is doing the checks and putting them back together. And then we'll stop for lunch. Okay, right, we've got 3 doors fitted, bathroom, bedroom, and the bedroom just behind you. But we have also done the facings, so we've repaired them, got them on, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how we've dropped it. So the painter, decorator, plasterer will repair the top of the frame, and then hunky-dory, everything's sound. So next job is hanging the last door, so I thought I'd talk you through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set you up over here, and I'm just going to work through the door and kind of talk you through my thought process. Hope it helps, because remember, this is an older frame, and obviously not everything's ideal. So things to note, right? See the frame checked out. You'll notice that whoever's put the facings on and hung the last door has took a big chunk out the facing and also took a big chunk out of the hinges. Now we have the same hinges that we're going to match into that, but when you come up across jobs like this and the customer's literally just wanting the door replaced, there's not much you can do. So it is what it is. This is the things you've got to deal with. It's real life. In ideal situations, you'd love to rip the frame out, repair it, etc. But the customer just wants the door replaced. This is the door in question that we're going to be fitting. It's an oak linear door from Howden's. The size width is 813 by 2040. So what I like to do first of all is check the size of the height of the door and see if we need to take anything off the bottom. So that size is 2030 and 2025. 5mm difference between what would be your right side and the left side. And just to double check that that's not the frame or the floor, I'm just going to put a spirit level in the header and double check. Yep, so it's the frame that's out. This side is sitting 5mm higher than the other side. So I'm just going to try the door in and see how it goes first. So what I do when I'm fitting the door is I get it tight to one side. So in this instance I've just put it tight to the lock side, and then I can have a look down the hinge side. And by the looks of it, we do not need to take anything off the sides. Maybe 2-3mm, but usually you could just tell just by looking at it. So we're quite lucky there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top just to get the gap. So I'm going to take 5mm to nothing off the top, and then that should be the door scribed to the top of the frame. So the saw I'm using is a rail saw, track saw or plunge saw. It's the same thing, just 3 different names. So here it is here, it's the Milwaukee M18 one. I'm using a 6 amp forged battery, and the reason why I love track saws, especially when you're doing something like this, so we're going from 5mm to nothing, would be really difficult if you were having to do that with a circular saw. You probably need to set up a straight edge with some clamps and just extra effort. With this, you just put the track saw on it, clamp it to the door, and away you go. Now I've put a brand new fresh blade in this, but what I'm going to do is there's a score cut feature on the saw. So basically you just push a button and it will only allow 2mm to come out. What that will do is stop the oak from splitting, and then it will just give it that nice clean cut as you go through it. I'll go through it in 3 passes, 1 score cut. The door's 35mm, I'll go through 10mm, and then obviously I'll go the full way. So the reason why I'm going through it in sections is just to keep the tension off the blade, and it just makes your blades last a wee bit longer. Cutting the oak doors is never good for your chisels or your saws, your planers. It always just dulls the blades really quickly. So I'm going to go through it with my score cut, then I'll go through it, but 10 to 15mm, and then I'll finish the cut off. A top tip here so you don't get mixed up is if you just get like a really fine pencil. So this is the Pica marker, fine pencil, and all I'm going to do is just write a wee tiny H. That is the hinge side, and that can get sanded off or taken off with a rubber at the end. We'll just remember and do that. So I've tried the door in and we're looking good at the top, and down the sides I'm going to take 2mm off the sides, I think, just because it is sitting that bit tight. And what else I'm going to do is I'm going to take note of the flooring that we've got. Obviously we've just plywood the floor. The Customer's unsure if she's going to go for laminate or carpets, and I'm going to leave it, and if I need to come back and cut the doors, I need to come back and cut the doors. It is what it is, and then that way we're not taking too much off and it just doesn't go for the carpets. So I'm happy with the height and the header scribed. I've put my mark on it so I know which side's what, and what I do is I leave the hinge side and I'll plane off just the latch side. It makes it so much easier if you need to sand it on this side opposed to taking anything off that side. So we'll leave that as is the way it comes to the factory, and we're going to take 2 to 3 mil off of the hinge side. Right, just a point to note, and I will reiterate this, if you are lifting the door, manual handle them, we're really lucky that we can cut them inside the property, but if you're taking them downstairs or taking them out to a cutting room, just make sure you orientate it the right way, because there's nothing worse when you take something off one side and you think you're taking more off, and then vice versa, and you end up taking far too much off. So I know with my pencil mark that I put on earlier, the side that I'm always going to be working off of. These door stands as well, I picked them up off eBay. It's often a common question I get asked, and I think they were like £50, and the way they work is like a spring system. So if you lift the door up, it comes loose and you put it in and it basically just wedges the door in. I'd recommend them just for safety, for if you're planing the door, it's just so much easier. And to plane the door, we're using the M12 planer. Planer is the best on the market, no bias, like it's just so good, it's so light, it's so nimble, and honestly it is amazing, it is a lifesaver. And I use it for kitchens, doors, and everything that you can possibly ever imagine. But we're going to take 2 to 3 mil off. Again, you don't need to go crazy. Even though the planer has got its capability of taking 2 mil off, just do a mil at a time. It won't make any difference, and it will add on a couple of extra minutes just to do it. And again, you're just not biting through that oak and really going at the door. Just take 1 or 2 mil off at a time and it'll give you a better finish. Two and a half passes, so we call it passes, but took 2.5 mil off the side of the door. Now don't go crazy, try it in the frame again. Make sure that it is going to be the right size that you need. Less is more in the sense of planing doors, because there's nothing worse when you plane it and plane it and plane it, and you put it in the door and you get a big massive gap. So I'm going to try it in the door, hopefully fingers crossed, it's good to go. Then we'll put it back in the stands, sand it up, and we'll move on to the hinges. If not, I'll plane it to suit, if that makes sense. Looking good. Right, so I'm fairly confident after the 2 passes that this door is good to go. Now it might be the case that we do the hinges and we might need to take it back off and take another mil off it, but I would rather risk that than take too much off of the door. So the way I double check is I make sure it's tight to one side, and you can do this by very gently using something like a nail bar and just popping it in and just pushing the door over, and be very careful when you're doing this. You don't want to be damaging the door, and again that's why we're always working off of this side, because this side's still to get sanded, and you want about 5 mil. Because you want 2 mil either side of the door. So if you just take your ruler and measure 5 mil all the way down the frame, keeping it tight to this hinge side, we're pretty much good to go. That means we'll have 2.5 mil either side, 3 mil if we need it, and that's well within tolerance. As well, the top, we've got 10 mil at the top, and again, we're going to go the thickness of a hinge from the top down, and also you're going to have 5 to 10 mil at the bottom of the door. And again, I don't want to take too much off in case the customer decides to go for carpets instead of laminate flooring. Right, so I'm fairly happy with how this door is sitting in the frame. I don't think I'm going to take any more off it, even when the hinges are on, just for experience. But if you want, you can leave this part to the end, but I'm just going to do it just now. What I'm doing is I'm just going over with the sander, and I'm just going over where I've planed, and it's just going to take any roughness out of the planer, because I did go over it a couple of times, and also it's going to take the sharp edge off of the door and just make it round again. You could go over it with a block plane first, but the sander does just the same thing. You're not wanting to go really heavy on the corners because you'll round it too much. It's just to take the sharp edge off it, and it'll just give it that better professional feel. Right, so I know some people like to use a rod and a big bit of timber and they'll put it in with a packer, and that's how they get the hinges, but honestly, like the way I've found to do it, just so you don't get yourself mixed up, is we're going to use the thickness of the hinge and we're going to put it in the top of the door, and I've got a windbag on the floor, and I'm basically just going to pump that up, and that will give us the hinges lined up where they're to be chopped out. And then what we can do is we can go down the hinge side and we can mark off the hinges where they're going to be chopped out, and that's the good thing about it being an existing frame. Now once that's done, you just push the button at the bottom of the air wedge and then that will release the hinge and then we're good to go and chop in our hinges. What I do is position my body on the side that the hinge is going to go on, as in relation to the inside of the door. Then what we'll do is we'll take our square and I just square the lines that I marked from the door frame onto the door, and I just go halfway because remember the hinge isn't going to go the full way of the door, and we're just taking that nice and slowly over. This is the hinge that I'm using. It's a 3-inch butt hinge and I'm using 3 of them because they're quite heavy doors, and that's what's already checked at the frame. And the way we do it, so I basically call it the inside and the outside. So the bit where the knuckle of the hinge is kind of sticking out here, that's called the inside, and then obviously I call that the back side. That's just what I call it. There's probably a technical term that somebody will let me know in the comments. So I put that facing down, so the bit that's sticking out at the bottom is facing down the way, and I put that against the face of the door that we're going to go on, and then we can draw around it. Right, so now it's time to mark the depth of the hinge, and basically all we're going to go is the thickness of the leaf. So that's about 2 or 3 mil. We're just going to come 2 or 3 mil down and draw a line right across. Now it's time to chisel at the hinges. Some folk use a router, some folk use a knife and go around the hinge that they've just marked with a pencil. However, I'm not going to do that this time. I don't like doing it because I think sometimes the knife can slip on oak and it leaves a mark, and I just don't like doing it. Also, I'm not using a router because there's only one door to hang, and what's the point in setting it up? If you can do it with a chisel, just do it with a chisel. So this is a brand new chisel I picked up this morning, and here we go. What I do is I start with both ends first. So just making sure we're lining it up on the line. Double check, double and triple check before you hit it, because once you've hit it, that's you. And that's it, that's all you need to give it. Nice, gentle tap. And you're done. You don't need to go mental with it. What you need to do is go along this back line, joining them up, and again, take your time, make sure you go right along it nice and slowly, and you'll be... Now that shoe went nice and neat around the outside, so to break it up, what we do is we're just going to go along it and we're going to put a chisel dent, I would say every 4 or 5 mil. The more lines you put in, the easier it will be, promise you. And then all we need to do is go onto that line we marked on the front earlier and just go straight across. And then what we can do is we can pair, and pairing is a technique when we edge the chisel in nice and slowly, and again we don't want to go mental because we don't want to bust out the other side of the door. So just wiggling the chisel back and forward, using the corners, digging in, and you'll get it. Slow and steady, less is more when it comes to doors. Beautiful. Now we'll try our hinge in. I'm just going to do that for the other two, and then we're going to screw them on, and then we'll try the door in the frame. All that's left to do now is screw it up. Now I'm using a centre hole pilot bit, so it basically just keeps the pilot hole bit in the centre of the hole. Okay, so all that's left to do is hang the door, and it can be tricky by yourself, but I'm going to show you a trick to do it. So basically what you want to do is make sure all your hinges are in, facing the way that they need to be, and then we're going to tilt the door forward on its front edge and line up the top hinge. And when that's in there, you can just screw the top hinge up. Put one screw in the top, and then what I do is I get my air wedge windbag again, and I'm going to put it at the front of the door on the float, and that should lift. In time, we'll lift the back hinge forward. We can just pull it out. First time, think it'll go. Think it'll go, think we need to plane, mate. Oh, fucking beautiful, mate. There you go, that is how we fit brand new doors to old frames in these old 100-year-old houses. We had the problem with the ones in the hall, but we overcame them. We lowered the frames and hunky-dory. Now the rest of the afternoon we are running out of time, so I would love to go into detail on how we fit the latches, but I don't have time unfortunately, so I maybe have to leave that for another video. If that's something you're looking forward to, let me know in the comments, but until then, just watch a wee quick montage of us fitting the 4 latches, and then we are up the road and back tomorrow for understairs storage. And that is how you hang a door new door, old frame. So thanks very much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, really appreciate it. If you could hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Tomorrow we're moving on to understair storage.